All right, let's get right into it. We're about to dive into a massive shift in how criminal investigations work. A world where the crime scene isn't a physical place you can tape off, but a server farm, maybe thousands of miles away. This is the new, wild reality of cloud forensic. I mean, just think about it for a second. Your photos, your emails, all your work documents, your social media, so much of what makes you, you, exists in a digital space, stored on servers you will probably never, ever see. It's just how we live now. And right there, that's the core of the problem. Because criminals are all over this stuff, using digital tech for everything from data theft to much, much worse. So when their illegal activities move into the same cloud services that we all use, how on earth can law enforcement possibly keep up? So yeah, the whole idea of a crime scene has been completely turned on its head. It's not about dusting for prints or grabbing a hard drive from someone's house anymore. The crime scene is now virtual, it's borderless, and it's controlled by somebody else entirely. This comparison really lays it all out, doesn't it? Traditionally, an investigation meant you physically seized a device. You knew whose laws applied. And the data, well, it was all right there. But in the cloud, the evidence is remote, it's intangible. Data can be sprinkled across servers in multiple countries, which makes jurisdiction an absolute nightmare. And you, the investigator, have to go through a giant cloud provider who controls the whole platform. It's a whole new ballgame. Law enforcement just can't rely on the old digital forensics playbook anymore. For years, the science has been evolving, right? But the cloud isn't just another small step. It's a giant leap that has left a lot of the old tools and techniques completely in the dust. You know, digital forensics didn't just pop up overnight. It went through phases. First, there was the ad hoc phase, basically the Wild West with no clear rules. Then, in the mid-'80s, things got more structured with standard procedures and tools. And now we're in the enterprise phase, a pretty mature science. But right when it got there, bam, cloud computing showed up and threw a wrench in everything. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The experts on the front lines, they know this is a crisis. In one survey of over 150 forensics pros, the consensus was just overwhelming. A staggering 88.89% agreed that the old ways are not enough, that we have to design totally new ways of doing forensics for the cloud. They are practically screaming for a new playbook. So what does this challenge actually look like for an investigator on the ground? Well, the dilemmas are huge. It's this complex web of technical and legal hurdles that can honestly seem almost impossible to get through. Okay, let's just walk through this nightmare scenario. First, jurisdiction. Is the data in Ireland, India, Indiana? Whose laws matter? Then there's something called multi-tenancy. Imagine a criminal's data is stored on the exact same physical server as data from hundreds of totally innocent people. You can't just go in and seize the whole server. That's like seizing an entire apartment building's mailroom just to get one person's letters. It's a perfect storm of problems. And this is not an exaggeration. Way back in 2010, a forensics researcher, S.L. Garfinkel, warned that the cloud could make the most basic steps of an investigation, like just preserving and isolating the evidence, flat out impossible. That's a chilling thought for anyone in law enforcement. But the story doesn't end there in despair. Faced with these insane challenges, researchers have been working hard to develop a modern solution for this very modern problem. They knew they needed a new playbook, a new framework, built from the ground up specifically for the cloud. And this is what they came up with. A new model, built around 3 core stages. It starts before investigators even arrive on site with a pre-search stage, all about intel and prep. Then you have the search itself, which is super systematic. And finally, the post-search, where all that digital evidence is meticulously pulled apart and reported on. And here is that roadmap in all its glory. This flowchart shows the entire process, right from the first call through all the different paths for searching and seizing, all the way to the final report. It's a concrete, step-by-step plan. But, you know, a flowchart is one thing. To see how it really works, let's look at a real-world scenario. So, this all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work when things get real? To find out, we're going to look at a case study where this exact model was put to the test in a really high-stakes corporate investigation. All right, so the target was a company, we'll just call them Organization A. The authorities suspected they were involved in illegal cartel behavior, fixing prices, crushing their competition. The stakes were incredibly high, and investigators needed some solid proof. And here was the problem. The investigators figured out pretty quick that Organization A wasn't using some local email server they could just grab. Nope. All the juicy, potentially incriminating emails were flying back and forth in the cloud through everyday Gmail accounts. Traditional methods were completely off the table. This is where the new model made all the difference. During that search phase, investigators used a prepared questionnaire on site. By talking to the right people, they not only confirmed, yep, they're using Gmail, but they actually got the passwords they needed. This was a direct result of the model's systematic approach. And the result? They got in. They successfully pulled critical evidence directly from the cloud. The lead investigator even said that if they had used their old, traditional techniques, all that vital information in Gmail would have been completely missed. The model worked. It actually worked. But here's the thing, the race is never really over. As the researchers themselves point out, just as we're getting a handle on cloud forensics, the game is already changing again. Now you have smartphones and the cloud all tangled up together, and that presents a whole new set of challenges that need even more research. Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. Technology is always going to outpace the law. It just will. And as our digital lives get more complex, spread across more devices and more borders, the fundamental challenge is still there. How do we make sure that justice can actually be served in a world that doesn't have any walls?